again, I think it's fascinating you brought that up, because when we wrote the chapter on, we have a chapter on what we call certified media, and it was this, the question we asked at the start of that chapter was, what if you could trust the content that you consume online? And exactly as you say, when we started that chapter, it was at the tail end of the Trump era, right? And it was very politically focused. Of course, what's happened now is in the current era, it's maybe much more social, right? And we've seen now these tools really democratized beyond even where they were a few years ago.
Sure.
And we've all seen. I mean, I'm sitting here in London. I woke up this morning after the coronation, and a friend sent me all of these photos of, in the style of Wes Anderson, the royal family partying after the coronation, right? And these super realistic, like incredible,
Yeah.
and obviously fake, but those are the fun examples. But we've all seen the examples of Trump being arrested violently by the the New York Police Department, the Pope famously wearing his big
The
puffer
white coat. Yeah.
Exactly. So, but again, it's this idea. When we started looking at this question, it actually came from the idea that what is important to society in the future. And there's a great book by Francis Fukuyama who wrote The End of History, which was all about trust and how trust fundamentally is the bedrock of any functioning society, right?
Right.
Whatever economic system you put in place, but especially in a capitalistic system, you have to have this ability to trust, people at scale, in order to have a functioning society of any kind of meaningful productivity. And that is going to be, whether it's synthetic media or Midjourney or whatever the technological platform is kind of irrelevant. I mean, it's relevant for that specific moment in time. The more relevant question is, what is really important to us as a collection of individuals, as a society going forward, that will still be relevant? And so that's really how we chose what to write about in the book, was to think about, yes, all of the examples that we feature are of the moment, but the bigger questions, what does it mean to trust the content we come across online? They will be relevant for the next 10 years.
Yeah. The reason that I put the same, like two topics in the same question, because that I could be anyone that I want, right? I could just wear the facade or someone or templates of others people's face and their expression, of course, their voice, and I can act as whoever I want. I know, Kim Kardashian, whoever I want. And once you are talking to me in the digital space, you don't know that I'm not her, or you just assume that she won't be there. But the fact that it's not a real thing, and the fact that it's not really me in the real world, could be either me expressing things that I cannot express during my daily life because I'm not doing that. And the second one could be I don't feel authentic because I feel obligated to be different or to present myself differently when I'm talking to you.
Yeah, I think it's a fascinating moment in time, and two observations. I was at a talk in the South by Southwest conference where we launched the book last month, and I thought one of the funniest insights I heard of a whole presentation was someone saying, there's this, as you say, there are all these filters, right? And you use the example of becoming Kim Kardashian, but even like Zoom now is less aggressive than that. But they have this kind of, now by default, it will make you a little bit more beautiful than you are used to. And this commentator said, I don't want this. I don't want to turn up in real life and everyone be disappointed, right? I want to have the ugly filter. So when I turn up, everyone's like, wow, you're so attractive.
Like it's like in TV, it gets you fat in a few pounds, right? And then you come in and wow, you're much thinner, which is like much better, right?
Exactly right. Or you're taller. You always hear people meet famous people and they go, oh, you're so small, right? Like this gap between expectations and reality, if we're not careful, we will not play to our actual advantage in the real world. So I thought that was very funny. And actually almost the bigger insight there around expectations and your point about truth. Everyone's saying, oh, AI and the synthetic media, deep fakes, will destroy trust in society, right? And I'm a little bit more optimistic than that, because my argument for optimism is that we have been here before, in the sense that we are just of the generation, because we've grown up when you see a photo or a video, for the whole of our lives, we've basically been able to assume that more or less it is real because it was very hard to fake. I mean, not exclusively, maybe, high-end politics, etc. But like 99% of the visual imagery that we see was what it was because, it was too difficult to fake. I don't think our children will have this expectation at all, right? In the same way, but if you think about when the printing press came along, historically, I was talking with a friend and we were saying, isn't it crazy that people used to trust signatures? There was really no like, anyone could sign something, but we just had this kind of cultural system that said, if something was signed, it was. But
Yeah.
before the printing press, if you saw something written down, you would kind of largely assume that it was real, and then you could print anything. You had no knowledge; it was just type. If someone wrote something, you had no knowledge that they'd actually said it, and we would rely on the mass media and cultural institutions to get
Yeah.
our news sources, our trusted news sources, from specific places, right? Because if I suddenly wrote, the King of England has decided we're now a republic and he's abdicated, you wouldn't believe it, right? You would say, okay, Henry's written it, or Henry's claiming this is written by, King Charles. What, how do I know? And so I think we are just in a moment where we are a little out of sync, if you like, with the technological capabilities and the reality. And I think, very, very quickly, we will just assume that things are fake unless we hear, unless we see that they are verified by a trusted source. And that is
Yeah.
kind of already beginning to happen, I believe, online. There are a lot of people tackling this problem of either technologically, or culturally, how can we verify this information?
Yeah, I agree that in the future our kids will be much more, and I wouldn't say smarter, but they would be smarter for their era, and they would see things differently. And I think that as I see the last like few years, especially with AI right now, is the fact that once you ask questions, and reality could be many things, you could open your mind to so many other possibilities than this is what you should do, this is what the media is telling you, that's the truth. It's not related only to the fact, do I believe and trust the media or trust people who write it? Is what is reality? How do I create things in reality? Do I have to go through a dogma that says this is how it is or not? And then it enables people to think for themselves because they want to really know, is it true for me? Is it authentic for me when I have this kind of content in front of me?
Yeah, yeah.